Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad, Daniel. We're just being joined from outside Ibrox by Fraser Wilson, who was obviously at Danny Rohl's big unveiling today. Some interesting stuff, and I'm sure we're about to get stuck in about it.
Absolutely. And Michael Gannon joins as well. How's it going?
I'm all good. Just saying, I've just been up the loft, get my Halloween decorations down. And before you say it, I'm not still wearing the mask.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that mask is
you can get your best to jump in. There's always a queue there. No.
Mate, you're not just doing the usual, just going as Frank the Tank.
Well, that's 11.5 months of the year. I need to find something different for Halloween.
Well, there's plenty of various Will Ferrell characters you could roll out over the course of a period, I'm sure.
No, I'm not sure I can pull off any Brad Pitt characters, that's for sure.
On that note, obviously, Keith, you say we're obviously joined by Fraser Wilson from Ibrox. It's a big day in Rangers history. Danny Rohl has been announced as the men's first team head coach. Fraser, you were there, as I say. How did it go?
Went very well. Sorry, I hope you can hear me, guys. I'm struggling to hear you here. It's a bit loud.
No, you sound good.
Ibrox, but first impressions all very positive with the German. I thought his hair looked nice, which might not get down too well with the Rangers supporters. On a serious note, he spoke a very good game. Do you know what? It was almost a bit of a shame for Danny Rohl, because although this was all about Danny Rohl's unveiling today, it was pretty much a sideshow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because this was the first chance really in public for Andrew Kavanagh, the owner, Chief Executive Patrick Stewart, and of course Sporting Director Kevin Thelwell, to face scrutiny, to face questions, and they are the guys, especially Thelwell and Stewart, who are firmly in the Rangers fans' crosshairs in the firing line here after what is, not to put it too mildly, been a disastrous opening 3 months for the club, and ultimately led to Russell Martin's sacking, which brought us to this point today. So yeah, Danny Rohl, lots of platitudes, pointed out how he hopes to win the Rangers fans over quickly, blah, blah, blah. But no, this was very much on Stewart and Thelwell today.
Yeah, the thing was there was 4 people up on that stage and only one of them looked happy to be there.
See how long that lasts.
The rest of them looked as if they were preparing for a very uncomfortable afternoon. They probably got off quite lightly. I thought the main kind of questions were directed at Kevin Thelwell about his son, Robbie, who's been appointed head of recruitment, and about the signing of Youssef Chermiti. I wasn't convinced by either of his answers. I don't think this helps with his credibility, Fraser.
Well, what can he say? Do you know what I was saying in there?
I'll blame it all on Dan Purdy.
No, was that?
I'll blame it all on Dan Purdy. That's going to be the subject.
No matter what Kevin Thelwell was going to say today about the recruitment of his 26-year-old son to such an esteemed position,
We're losing him.
You know, and that's the problem with the appointment. He might be an absolute world beater. Nobody knows. He's not proved that he is. He might be an absolute world beater in that department. But the optics of it, and he admitted that himself, the optics of it are so bad that I just don't think it should ever have happened. So he was on to hiding to nothing with that one to begin with, wasn't he? And then Chermiti again. I've got to watch that again. We grilled him on that and the newspaper aspect of the conference, which came later on. So I don't want to give too much away about what he said in that situation. But fair to say again, he was only going to defend the player. Something along the lines of anyone in that league who is scoring goals would be miles out with their price bracket, but that doesn't really cover the fact that Rangers have absolutely emptied their own budget to bring in a player that's not scored a senior goal for 3 years, which is the big question.
Fraser, I know you've got 10 million words to file tonight, so we can let you go in just a second.
No, I've got 10 million words, Daniel. I've got to crunch them into 850. That's the
problem. Before you go, just what was your overall impression of Danny Rohl then? It looked to me, and it's what you expected. As you said, he's walking into somebody else's nightmare there. It's meant to be has a big appointment. It's a 36-year-old guy, bit wet behind the ears. I felt it was a bit uncomfortable for him, to be honest with me. I think he'll be looking forward to getting into the dugout and onto the grass.
Well, we've got a third press conference with him, the Sunday guys here, so that's what I've just come out of that. So it's nice to sit down with the guy around the table and speak to him kind of in a more relaxed atmosphere. He's confident. I mean, we're asking him about what Russell Martin has just gone through here. I can't give too much away, obviously, we'll wait till Sunday Mail to read that. But let's just say he's very, very confident and loves a challenge. He knows what he's taking on here and he's not fazed by it one bit. Points a lot to what he went through at Sheffield Wednesday, and there are parallels there. You know, a fan base in revolt against the hierarchy there, a club struggling to meet the expectations of their supporters. You could say that guiding them to 12th against that backdrop last season was success for that level, but he knows he needs to win every single week here at Rangers. That's what ultimately cost Russell Martin his job. That's what's making Ibrox such a toxic place right now, every home game. And look, he says he's up for it. He's not scared of it. Let's see what it brings.
Fraser, it's an absolute pleasure having you in the hotline live. We really appreciate it. Good luck filling those 850 words tonight.
Cheers, lads. I might get finished in time for deadline. Cheers.
Cheers, Fraser.
Yeah,
obviously, Fraser was there, guys, but maybe we can hear a little bit for ourselves from the press conference today.
850 words is just a decent sized intro. What's he moaning about?
Oh, I could do that before breakfast. What's he wearing boxing gloves?
That's a warm-up. Shall we hear from the Rangers press conference ourselves, guys? We've got a few clips that we can show.
Let's do that.
Let's have a listen.
Thank you for your continued interest in this great football club. We look forward to introducing you to Danny Rohl. When we became a part of this club this summer, we talked about two things: sustained winning and winning sustainably. And 4 months later, it has obviously not gone as we envisioned. We did not expect it to be easy, but we also didn't expect to be where we are today. Part of that was the decision we made over the summer to appoint Russell as the head coach. It did not go as planned. Russell is a good guy. He worked tirelessly. He wanted desperately to win, and I wish him well. But it didn't work. If something doesn't work, I think there are three things that you need to do. You need to acknowledge it. You need to own it, which I believe that we have done. You need to rectify it. And today is a big part of that. And with that, we are happy to have Danny here as our head coach. I think Danny will be incredibly successful here at Rangers, and I think that for three reasons. The first is that we were incredibly impressed by his ability to take tactics and actually make them happen on the pitch. I think a lot of people talk about tactics, but you have to actually deliver them on the field, and we're very confident that Danny can do that. The second thing is man management. I think Danny will bring out the best of every one of our players, and that we will soon see the best version of each of them. And the third is that while Danny is new to this organization, I think he gets it and has the ability to create a bond with our supporters, which is so important. He knows that winning is the only option. He knows that winning has to happen right away, and he knows he has to create that bond with our supporters. He is confident, he is technical, and I think he will probably hide it from you a little bit over the next 24 hours, but he also has a little bit of an edge to him, and I think that will serve him well. We remain incredibly optimistic about this football club. We still have everything in front of us to play for this year. I think we have yet to see the best of our squad, and I look forward to seeing what Danny can bring out of them. When we joined this organization, this club, became a part of this family, we said that one of the things that drew us to it were the supporters, and that has not changed at all. We know that they have been disappointed. We recognize that. Everybody at the club is going to work tirelessly to get us back to what everyone so desperately wants, which is winning football matches. So with that, Danny, welcome to Rangers Football Club.
Andrew Kavanagh there, guys. Mick, what's your take on Danny Rohl's performance today?
Listen, I thought he handled it. From what I've seen, I thought he handled it pretty well. I thought he came across well. I think the absence of certain phrases, I was quite pleased to hear. I didn't hear anything about philosophies or sticking to a certain style and all that stuff. He said it's about winning, and he says after that we can work out about things like entertaining and all that stuff. And it's all about winning games, and that is exactly what it's about. So I mean, I also hate this phrase that he gets it and all that stuff. What does that actually mean when he gets it? I mean, I don't know. But listen, he's a big reputation as a coach. He's been at some big clubs, albeit behind the scenes. That's a different ballgame. He's 36 years old, which for some of us my age, it's a frightening idea that a 36-year-old can be in charge of a club like Rangers and the pressure that comes along with it. And that's what's going to be the turning point, because the ability to coach on the grass with the cones out is the bare minimum for this job. It's all the other stuff he needs to cope with. It's the pressure coming from the stands, from media, from social media. It's this expectation to win things, despite the club not having really won things in recent years, but there's still an expectation to do so. It's going to be a culture shock for him. I know he's been at Bayern Munich, but he's not the one facing up to the media twice a week or dealing with the noise in the stands. He's the one that's going to be in the firing line. It's going to be, I mean, I know he's at Sheffield Wednesday, which is a big club, but at a time when expectations are pretty low there, when they were bombing at the Championship at the time, and he did well to keep them up. I mean, players weren't getting paid and all this kind of nonsense, which I think takes a bit of pressure off, because they're not really expected to win every week. I think winning's a bonus at Sheffield Wednesday the last few years, whereas winning at Rangers is a prerequisite. So I thought he came across well, but it's a gamble for me. It's a big job for a young guy without much experience in that environment. It's a big job for a guy with experience. Philip come in having won titles in different countries, end up doing the can. It can drive serious managers crazy. So it's a difficult position for a guy in any position, any age or any experience. So especially so for a young guy. So I think some Rangers fans aren't quite as aggressively anti this move as they were Russell Martin, but I'm not particularly fussed at the moment. But they're probably glad to take somebody in, and they might give him a chance. But he's going to need to go off to a good start, and he's under pressure from the beginning. I think the other thing was, I mean, the rest of the executive branch that we're speaking, they listen. First of all, fair play to them for fronting up and actually answering questions and sitting with journalists. That's a positive for me, because we've seen it across the city at Celtic, hiding away and hoping things blow over isn't a solution. So at least they tackled it. Did they impress? They said a lot of corporate speak, didn't they? A lot of kind of waffle and a lot of kind of the usual kind of blah 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 as you get from the guys in the suits. But there was a degree of taking ownership of the situation, and I thought they came across fairly well-meaning. I don't think Thelwell convinced too much in terms of some of his answers about his son and the kind of signings. I don't know if the boys have got him to his feet to the flames after the broadcast. I would think so. But in terms of the manager, yeah, I think he looked comfortable, pretty confident. It's an interesting appointment, and it's now it's up to him to see if he can cope with the heat.
It was interesting, I felt, for Kavanagh to obviously, come out there and front it up, and I think you're right, Mick. He looks as though he's aged.
He looks as though he's aged already in about 3 months, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. But this is a guy that has to commute from America to go and front that up today. It's not just a 15-minute drive from the suburbs. So credit where that's due. But I'm just not sure that he's really understands the environment that he's in yet. And he said something there in his opening gambit, which I think will cause a little bit of concern with Rangers fans. They wanted to hear him say, "Look, guys, hands up, we've made a boo-boo." And what he said was, when you make an error of judgment, you've got to first acknowledge it, then you've got to take ownership of it, and then you've got to rectify it. And all of that is music to the ears of the Rangers supporters, who'll be loving that, and they think, right, brilliant, man of action here. But it's completely undermined when you look to his right and you look to his left, and you've got two other big problems there that haven't been acknowledged, taken ownership of, or rectified. And these are the problems, the fundamental issues that Rangers have got. If they want to bring the fans on board, if Andrew Kavanagh wants to be the Pied Piper, you can't say that I can do that with one problem, but here's, two of the even bigger issues that we've got, and they're flanking me into this press conference situation to appoint the manager. I think that's could be a potential credibility issue. Although right now, I guess the Rangers supporters are just happy that this ridiculous process has reached an end, and they've got a guy that's in position. Whether or not it's the right guy remains to be seen. And what I would also say is, I'm just a little bit concerned about this concerted effort almost to sort of devalue and dilute the position of manager. It's no longer manager, obviously. And I think by even a point, as Mick was saying there, a young 36-year-old guy that's best achievement to date as a manager or as a head coach is a 12th place finish in the English Championship. That strikes me that the guys that are making these calls don't quite fully understand the demands of the sport, because on no basis up until this point would that be deemed an acceptable candidate for the position. There's a whole bunch of stuff, even the fact that today, and traditionally Rangers, the manager would be unveiled and announced to the world in the Blue Room, which is like the beating heart of the football club. It speaks to the tradition and the history, and now it's in an auditorium for the media. It's just little things like that where I feel they're not connecting with the support. And I can understand that they feel they want to go a different way, and they can point to the fact that, there was Rangers guys in charge of Rangers for the last however long, and they've won one title out of the last 14. So it does need change. But there are certain things that I think they need to be careful with, because Rangers supporters, after all the experiences, all the trauma they've been through over the last 15 years or so, they're extremely wary. They've been told by other people coming in that we're here to fix things, and I think through no fault of Andrew Kavanagh's or anybody else in there, there's a bit of a legacy issue there, a bit of scar tissue. It makes no sense in many ways, because the Americans have come in, they've not chanced their way in through the front door. They've had to pay their way in, and they've spent considerable sums in order to do that. So you've got to then reach the conclusion. The fans and the Americans are coming at this from the same starting point, which is they want to see Rangers successful. That's the logical conclusion. It's just a matter of how the Americans are doing it right now. And there are certain little things about it that I think will cause concern amongst the Rangers supporters, because all they've ever really wanted from day one was to make Rangers look a little bit more like Rangers used to look. And they're going in a different way. And I'm not sure that if they were getting good advice, they'd be doing that right now.
Yeah, but this is the thing that the American owners are so reliant on the guys on the ground to run the show.
The guys on the ground have got no experience of Rangers either, Mick.
This is the problem. I mean, Andrew Kavanagh, he says, listen, we all sneaked in. He says, when I joined the organisation, which is obviously like, what? It's natural that he's an American, and he's very well scripted. I thought he was good, but he's relying on these guys on the ground to do the business, and he'll live and die by these guys in the short term. What might eventually be the case if he is getting let down with these guys, he will have to replace them, the same as a manager. Yeah. So he's made the call.
This is last chance. I think this is last chance. Yeah. But they might well and that managerial structure that's in place.
I think so. And I think it's now, because now what will happen is there'll be a wee bit of quiet about the guys off the field in the suits. I think we'll now focus on the dugout, seeing what this new head coach can do. If he can start getting results and the team's looking aggressive, and this word he was hunting and all that stuff, and I think that will get the fans on board. If he gets a couple of results quickly and they like what they see, that will start to fade away, the noise with the background. Then we'll get to January and see what happens in January for in the transfer window in terms of recruitment, because then the whole focus will go back on to the guys behind the scenes. So I don't think they're out of jail by any stretch of imagination, but I think now the focus will be on the pitch and on the manager. And if the manager can't hack it, then they are going to be in bother again, because this is clearly their guy. I think I get the impression. Listen, I'm only speculating, but the guy, the Americans at the top, seem to have went down a kind of chasing guys by kind of fan forums. But I mean, we'll go try and get Gerrard. That's what they want. And Gerrard's like, well, actually, this doesn't really suit me right now. Thanks for the offer, but no thanks. Right, well, they've been wanting Muscat for 5 years. Let's go and get Muscat. No, actually, I can't start to whatever. And plus, I don't like the sound of this nonsense. I'm not coming either. So there's a conflict of the kind of a serious business and following kind of almost like the following the winds the fans are going. And I get that as well, but you've got to just have a singular vision and confidence in how to run a club.
Did you not think though that obviously the Americans and Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marat put their name to it, an open letter saying, look guys, we are sorry, this hasn't gone well, but we have now got our boots in the ground, we are going to take control of this, we're going to sort this out. And I think that the move towards Gerrard and the subsequent pivot towards Muscat was very much the Americans saying, right, we better come up with something here.
Well, they'll put the finger in the dike of the fan movement. Like, that's who they want, so that's who we'll try and get. Even though clearly they couldn't pull it off.
I don't know, Mick. You know, why did it fall down? Why did both of these things fall down? I think for very similar reasons, and those reasons were sitting left and right on the stage of Andrew Kavanagh today. I think that's a concern, and also I'm a little bit troubled by the fact that at the time when it was Gerrard and Gerrard was flying in from Bahrain, from somewhere Danny Rohl's name emerges. This is a serious candidate as well, you know. Okay, so then Gerrard is basically talked out of it in the end, and Danny Rohl is installed immediately as favourite. And then the Americans move towards Muscat. And when Muscat looks like he's getting it, for whatever reason, Danny Rohl publicly withdrew from it. And we've got a clip on that when he was asked about it today, Daniel, don't we?
Aye, let's have a listen. If we can.
It's not there.
Just
Well, we'll get it when we get it. But
I think I heard these. I think I've seen these comments about it earlier on.
The point I'm making is it felt a little bit choreographed to me that he pulled out as Muscat was in the driving seat, and it basically left the Americans in a situation where, if for whatever reason they couldn't get Muscat over the line, they're absolutely snookered because the last sort of safety net's just been removed from him. And then all of a sudden, despite pulling out on the Thursday, he's in Glasgow on the Monday. There's just issues around it, and the fact that Danny Rohl was actually a named candidate back in the summer when the Americans were having nothing to do with the recruitment process for a manager. That was all on Greta Steinson and Thelwell. And I think for all these reasons, there will be a little bit of suspicion, and it's not helpful. And I feel sorry for Danny Rohl. Because clearly I think he's well intentioned. He clearly believes in himself, and he's going to have to back all that up now with results and performances. But it's a bad starting place.
Well, look, my sixth sense tells me that our producer Darryl was having a few network problems, but I understand that now we might be able to hear a couple of extra clips. Which one was it again, Keith? Danny Rohl was.
Danny Rohl, when he was asked about why did he pull out of the process?
Let's have a listen.
Danny, welcome. Can I just clarify, you did rule yourself out of this process last week. Why was that, and what changed for you?
I think important is the outcome that I'm here. I think this is very crucial. I understand this question, of course. When a lot of rumors comes out and there is a no and there's a yes, I think this is always difficult to understand. But for me, and this is the crucial thing why I'm here, we had a fantastic talk. We had again meetings. We spoke, never stopped the communication, and I think that's the reason why I'm here now.
Does it concern you that there's a perception that you are not first choice for this position?
No, because I'm honest to you guys. You can be the first, the second, or the third choice. Important is that you win the next games, and then you have to go forward. Yeah, I think this is the reason why I'm here. For me, it's not a situation, because I'm sure, and I'm honest to you, I cannot tell you which choice I cannot just tell you that I'm here, and it gives me the belief that I was the first choice. Yeah, and with this direction, I want to go forward.
Danny Rohl there. We've actually got tons of comments coming in, guys. I've not had a chance to go through them yet, so will I fire a few of them at you just now?
Yeah, sure.
A very sort of mixed response from Rangers fans today, particularly when it comes to Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. Graham says Thelwell looked like a rabbit in the headlights, get rid. Craigie says Thelwell and Stewart need to go. Julie says you could see Thelwell acting up when asked about his son. I think that's another clip we've got, which I'll maybe come back to in just a minute or two. Rangers Easy OK says, I've been here before, except with Martin, who we thought was a cabbage. Rohl spoke really well and will get firmly behind him. The majority will. James says he feels better.
The Rangers fans should, Dan. I mean, they owe it to their club. They owe it to Danny Rohl. They really should. But if it doesn't start well, I don't know how long the patience and the goodwill will survive if he's tainted by sort of the Kevin Thelwell shadow.
James, as you can see on your screen, says, I feel better about Rohl, no forgiveness for Stewart or Thelwell. They need to go, and Thelwell can take his son with him. John says, a German who gets it, and he's been in the door a day. Aye, right. Margaret says, big mistake. We should have brought Graham Souness back. And Derek also says, Souness destroyed Celtic, and he was like 33. I think very different Rangers and Celtic back then, to be fair.
He was also 1986 33, which is actually about 53. Big moustache and all that. But back then, they were made differently back then.
Yeah, that's true.
It shows me living in their mum's basements.
Scott in Berlin says, I'm very happy with Rohl. Highly sought off here in German football. I'm sure he will get us back to winning form with a kick up the backside for his team. And finally, Rangers Easy OK says, none of us are asked Keith if it's in the blue room or if he wears a suit and brogues. All we care about is if he's capable of putting a run of wins together and getting us back on track.
No, fair enough. But I just feel there's a concentrated and calculated effort to try and move Rangers in a different direction, and I'm not sure that all the fans will be just as happy to go along with that. I think, look, this is all going to be determined by how well or otherwise Danny Rohl does in the job. But there is a feeling, and I would subscribe to it, that a club like Rangers and a club like Celtic, this isn't MK Dons. It's not Leicester City. These clubs are different animals. They're different beasts, and they require different solutions. And I'm firmly of the belief that Celtic have always been at their most powerful and most successful when they've got a real manager in charge of the shop, and it's always been the same at Rangers as well. And I'm yet to see an example of where diluting the importance of the guy that's actually front and centre of the thing is a good move. I've yet to see an example of it. I find the rules in Glasgow are just a little bit different. Maybe that's our fault and the rest of the world has moved on, but it is the way it is, in my view.
I think I mentioned there that we maybe have another clip of Kevin Thelwell getting asked about Robbie Thelwell joining Rangers. I know we've been on Rangers for a while, but maybe we'll listen to this and maybe move on. Sound good?
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the points that you've been criticised by from fans is the appointment of your son to the recruitment team. Has that been uncomfortable to hear, and why did you feel that he was the best man for this position?
Yeah, I think it's always uncomfortable to hear, and optically I think we all agreed when we made this step to appoint Robbie that he was going to be seen in a particular way. But the reality of the situation is that we want to bring the very best talent here to Rangers Football Club. My view on Robbie's career, Robbie's situation is he doesn't need my help in football. He's worked at Aston Villa as a senior scout. He then moved to Norwich City as head of scouting and then got promoted to player pathways manager. And before we recruited him, 2 Premier League clubs wanted to take him. Dan Purdy, who's the technical director, who he will work for, wanted to take him to Everton Football Club. When I was there, I told him that shouldn't be the case and I didn't think he was ready. But when the situation came around again and Dan wanted to take him again, it was very difficult to say no. What we did do, right at the very start of that process, was to talk to Patrick and Andrew and Parag and the board and talk to them about this situation. I was extremely transparent about that's what Dan wanted to do. And I think Robbie probably went through a more rigorous process than probably anybody else who's employed by this football club, truth be known. What I do know is that he will work 25/8 to bring success for this football club, and him and Dan work very closely together and work very well together. And I'm looking forward to him proving that he's going to be an excellent employee for Rangers.
What, 25/8? I've never heard that before, guys. 25/8.
It's a new one.
Sounds like a shift at the record these days. There's no button to hit for the overtime either.
Look, we need to move on to Celtic, but just very quickly, you can see from the comments, Keith, regardless how they spoke today, Thelwell and Stewart haven't convinced anyone, it seems, as far as Rangers fans go.
But do you know the crazy thing, and this is the bit that just doesn't make any logical sense to me. He sat there, he said, I know how bad this looks. Oh my God, the optics are just terrible. It's my son. It just so happens that the best qualified guy for this job is in the spare room playing in his Xbox now. He's 26. The optics they are worse than horrible. They are catastrophically bad. And yet somehow, in their wisdom, they said, right, we'll go and have a conversation. And the guys, the big brains in the room all agreed, yeah, do you know what, we'll just go for it. Now, that is bad for me because it tells me that they really don't care about the reaction of the supporters. And that's not a great place to be in. And I'm sorry, but on no basis as a 26-year-old kid with a couple of kind of down-the-ladder scouting positions under his belt, the best qualified man to be head of recruitment at Rangers. It's just, you're asking me to believe in Santa Claus here. I'm sorry.
The very final Rangers thing, I know I keep saying that, but honestly, Julie says no backroom staff name yet. There's a story that's just gone up on Daily Record Sport saying that Sasha Lenz, who was with Danny Rohl at Sheffield Wednesday, is going to join his backroom team. So that's at least one name that we know. I don't know if either of you guys are familiar with him, but apparently he's going to be joining Rohl at Ibrox any day now. Cool.
Well,
okay.
You know, they listen. They did an okay job together at Sheffield Wednesday. I wouldn't go any further than that. Sheffield Wednesday fans were very grateful for the work that they did by keeping the club up against the odds. But I come back to it's a 12th place finish in the Championship, and that's the extent of the track record here.
Aye. Well, look, in the comments as well, Mick, Thomas Burns simply says, I feel sorry for people who own a Honda Civic. And I think that might be in response to you. And by the way, I owned a Honda Civic for about 6 years. Great car. Never let me down.
A Toyota Prius.
My brother had one for about 20 years. They called it Jane. Me, Jane Honda.
Oh, my.
He loved it. I felt bad for me, Jane, another day when I heard that.
Thomas, obviously, Mick, is referring to Brendan Rodgers. You wrote a piece on Record Sport Online today about his struggles going on at Celtic just now, which I definitely think is required reading for Celtic fans. But are the wheels falling off, Mick? Is that what's happening?
Well, it's a multi-leveled malfunction. I mean, I said when talking about the Honda, it's not a Honda. Hondas are reliable. Celtic are far from reliable right now, and the warning lights are flashing all over the camp. I think it's a real mess. There's harmony from the supporters to the board, between the board and the manager. The manager's not content with his squad. The squad isn't playing well. There's gaping holes in the team. Players out of form, players that don't look fit, and a team that don't know how to score a goal. I mean, it's an absolute recipe for disaster for Celtic. And the big problem they've got is that it could get worse. They've got a huge spell coming up. They've got, obviously, Sturm Graz in town Thursday, Hearts at Tynecastle, which they could go 8 points behind, which is incredible at this stage of the season. They've got Rangers in the League Cup semi-final coming up a week Sunday as well. The season is already on a fine edge, and it's when you've seen the bad-tempered support so far, it's very combustible. And then the manager situation is lingering in there as well. I mean, he's been very honest, and he's always worth listening to, Brendan Rodgers, but he's trying everything to try and find some kind of solution to find a way for this team to function. But the reality is he's got very little goals in his team. And a team that's not got any goals in it is going to struggle. And other rival teams have figured the I mean, Celtic Callum McGregor stuff today said that they've been easy to play against. He's right. People look back at the Scottish Cup final and the Jimmy Chalene playing for penalties from the first whistle set up. That's been employed by Kerriat, St Mirren, Kilmarnock, Rangers, and then again Dundee. It's a blueprint that works against Celtic, so everyone's going to do it, and it's Celtic going to continue to struggle. So I don't know where it goes with Celtic. I think they've got major problems coming down the pipeline.
And there is a scenario, Keith, where Mick mentioned there that if Hearts win at Tynecastle on Sunday. I know it's a big if. They've got 8 points clear. Celtic are in the Cup semi-final the week after. Hearts could go 11 points clear. And then even the week after that, Hearts play first. There's a scenario where Celtic could be 14 points behind Hearts. After,
and potentially knocked out of the League Cup by Danny Rohl and Rangers. Which would, you know, that's your worst case scenario for Brendan Rodgers right now. Well, I say it's your worst case scenario. The Honda Civics Owners Association might make some sort of formal complaint. It'd be a bit like the police chief from Scott Squad when he has to go and apologise about this, apologise about that, because he's getting clobbered, isn't he? He's getting clobbered now, Brendan Rodgers, and I think where he had the advantage of having the fans on board with him, just coming out of that transfer window, I feel it turning, Mick, don't you, a little bit? I feel there's more and more getting aimed at him now.
I think Sunday, I said it on this show on Sunday afternoon, it felt a wee bit like a watershed moment at Celtic, that all of a sudden, having the board copped all the flack for months and months, all of a sudden the manager is getting dragged into the blast zone. I think people are then going, well, the football this year has been dreadful. They've not scored in 6 games this season already. They've only won, was it 7 out of 14 games. The win ratio for 2025 is down below 60%. And all of a sudden, the players available to the manager, that is a reason for it. But the punters are thinking, well, they should be able to rise above this and still get a better tune at these guys. So he's definitely getting dragged into it. And listen, I think if in normal circumstances, the fact that it's Hearts top of the league right now changes it slightly as well. Because if Celtic were 5 points behind Rangers right now, with the potential of going 8 behind Rangers, I think at normal times you'd be thinking it's getting almost a sacking issue. I mean, Rangers sacked managers. Michael Beale was 7 points behind Celtic in October. Brian Bronckhurst was 9 points behind in November, wasn't it? Clement was about 9 or 10 points behind. If you go 8 points behind, 11 points behind a Rangers, you're talking about the manager getting the one to Dan Mack, right? Celtic right now, though, that should not be a conversation topic, because all roads lead back to the major issues, which is the transfer and recruitment in the last 5 windows. Because everything that's happened in these 5 windows has taken us up to this point. So anything you do want to scrutinise Brendan Rodgers, which I think is on the right to do so, but eventually all roads lead back to recruitment, because he's been left. I don't, maybe not the keys to the Honda Civic, right? But he's been left with a very imbalanced squad with guys that are not up to scratch. So the signings they have made haven't looked good enough, and the ones that needed they didn't make. So they're now left relying on a striker who was been basically turfed out by Seville, having hardly kicked the ball for 18 months. He's now the main man for City up front. The backup is a League of Ireland striker who scored 2 goals in 9 months. It cost about 200 grand. They've lost £17 million worth of Kyogo and Adamida to replace it with these 2 guys. There's no right winger. There's issues all over the park. I mean, Rodgers is entitled to say, right, he does say it, I'm the one responsible, I'll carry the can. But he's also entitled to go, well, I mean, look at what I'm having to work with here. So it's just a bit of a mess with Celtic right now. The breakdown between the board and the manager is clearly damaging the place. The fans and the board's ongoing uncivil war is damaging the place. And I asked the question the weekend, is it affecting matters on the pitch, right? And he said, in fairness to Rodgers, said, no, he's not an excuse. But if you're a Celtic player right now, you're getting told you're not very good by the manager. The fans are throwing things in the park and when silent protests and all that stuff. You're a human being, that's going to affect you. And the whole place is getting more toxic with the week. And I think there could be more trouble down the line. Rodgers going to need to work harder and do more magic than he's ever worked with the manager in the next 4 weeks. To find a formation, a straight up, a way of playing that's a tune at these guys and gets them scoring goals again. Because right now, they can't keep toiling like this on a weekly basis because it's not going to go anywhere.
You know, I think what he's got in his favour, Mike, is he's got players that have been the course and distance at Celtic.
Aye, Keith, but see, the problem is, see those guys, they look clapped out. They've been relied on. This is the dying embers of Ange Postecoglou's team.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Callum McGregor, 60 games a season, carrying the team at times. Rio Hatate looks a shadow. Cameron Carter-Vickers, again, doesn't look like a player he used to be. Dyson Maeder should have left in the summer, having to come back from injury and carry the team again. These are the guys who are the mainstays and have been relied on for so long. And it looks as though the burden is now finally caught up with them.
I think that because they've gone over the course and distance, you've always got a chance that they'll spark, that they'll get the spark back, they'll come back to life, they'll start finding form and performances. I think maybe the worry is the guys that have come in around about it, they must be looking at it, and it's very similar. This is a similar problem to what's been going on at Rangers since the start of the season. New guys coming into an entirely new environment going, what is this madness? What's this chaos? And you can almost see some of the newer guys that have come into the picture at Celtic wilting over the last few games with and it's something. This is what I keep going back to, this unique environment. It takes a special sort, and whether that's a player or a manager or a first team coach, it's not for everybody. It takes more than just being talented at your job. You need to carry the personality. You need to have a broad pair of shoulders and be able to dig yourself out of a hole when the heat's on. I think Celtic get enough of these guys, but Mick, I think you're right as well. Even the ones that you could hang your hat on look as if they're starting to struggle on it.
Yeah, I do think the club has got. I mean, Brendan Rodgers himself said it back in, I think it was February or March when they lost at St Johnstone, and he took the painting off the wall after the match, and he said there's too many people who are too comfortable at the club. He warned back then there was a need of a real refresh, and it never happened because Celtic have had this kind of it'll be all right in the night mentality for too many years, and because it has been all right on the night, they've had little bumps along the way, and things have always managed to work out well for them, and they've hoovered up trophies. And by the way, they have a lot of credit for that because that's not easy. If it's easy, no. Rangers will be doing it. So, but this it'll be okay on the night mentality isn't what drives the club forward. And Rodgers knows that. He warned about it months and months and months ago.
Yeah. And eventually every cycle reaches its end point, man.
Yeah, he said back in March, he said, you either change the players or you change the manager. That's what he said back in March. That's how you keep things fresh. They haven't changed enough players, and the manager is obviously they're not going to change the manager. I mean, that would be lunacy. So something's that kind of comfortable that he warned about, that comfort that he was born against is seeped in as well, and it's seeped in at the top of the level as well. We'll get players at the end of the window. It'll be fine. We always do it. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Had to go the day after deadline day and ask for a guy who's out of work. They got the dole queue for a striker. I mean, it's not. It can't always be. It'll be all right on the night. At some point, you need to get to saddle up and get it done themselves. But it's catching up with them big time. And as I said, Rodgers is a man who I think he could find a spark. He could play somebody in a position you don't expect, and find a way of playing that changes things, and all of a sudden it clicks. But I don't see the 30-goal striker who's going to win them the league. I don't see the 20 goal a season backup striker that wins leagues. I don't see the 15-goal winger that's going to win a league, or two of them. So there's right away those four positions that maybe your 60 goals a season are not in this team. So where does he magic it from? Johnny Kenny's not getting 20 goals, and he actually might get 10 to 15. He needs to get 30. Tonecki and Baltwisher don't look capable. They've scored a dozen goals between them in the last 2 years. They're not capable of scoring 20 goals. So,
and do you know what? One of the most incredible aspects of it all for me, Mick, as well, is that Celtic are going into this domestic front looking. Brendan Rodgers would have put that target down at the start of the season, wants a treble this season. They had a Champions League campaign and blew that, but they've still got the Europa League. And it's all predicated around the fitness of, as you said, a striker who has had fitness problems, hasn't played much football in the last 18 months. What happens if Ian Atchell pulls up injured? It's an Ian Atchell injury away from a really, really horrible position for Celtic. And at a time when you've got Hearts, really throwing something down at them from across the other side of the M8. It's fascinating.
Celtic 21 games in 7 games in 21 days.
That's it, yeah.
And he actually not played that many games. He played about 7 games since January.
Yeah.
So it's a major test of how. Listen, I feel for any actual right, because he's not played much football in the last 18 months, 2 years. From the last tail at Leicester, Seville, and then obviously at Borough. He's having to play week in, week out, 90 minutes for Celtic now.
But how can Celtic leave themselves in that position? That is where I have the sympathy with Brendan Rodgers, Mike, and everybody looking at that with an honest set of eyes would have to say it's difficult not to feel anything other than a degree of sympathy there for Brendan Rodgers, because he didn't design that.
No, exactly. Again, every time you start to analyse Celtic, all roads lead back to the transfer window. Every one of them. He says, oh, we'll play 3-4-3. Well, how can they do that? Because there's no right winger back to the window. Oh, we'll rotate the strikers, play 2 up front. What 2? Johnny Kenny alongside Iniacho, back to the window. I mean, it's everything. The problems. We'll rest Callum McGregor and play a number as a defensive midfielder. They haven't got one. Everything leads back to the recruitment.
Yeah.
So they've got major issues.
Well, I know, guys, we're very much in stoppage time of today's show, but I haven't really had a chance, Keith, to go through a lot of the Celtic fans on this issue. Maybe one last quick trip to the comments, if that's okay. Let's do it. Rebel says, I've never seen Mick so downbeat about Celtic. Things are grim. Mark says,
I'm just back my holidays. I've got the post-holiday blues, haven't I? My time lasted about 16 hours.
All that's missing here is a hood to come up and a big sickle.
I've got my Halloween costume for next week.
Mark says the only one of the next 6 games I'm vaguely confident is Falkirk. Craig says Rodgers can take that Honda to the airport when Ange comes back. Craigie says there's no wheels left on it. He parked it in Shettleston. I won't have
I'm an East End boy.
Besmirching the reputation of Shettleston. That's bang out of order. Paul says Brendan's constant 4-3-3 has been doing my head in. We don't have the players for it at the moment. John says half the Celtic team went away, just like in the COVID season implosion. And Rebel again says, thinking about it, since we sold Kyogo, it's been like an avalanche of disaster. And just very finally, Brian Hanlon says Mick Gannon would play a tremendous Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights. Can't disagree with that, Brian.
We ain't at this going slagging the blood here. We've got this for years.
It's a compliment. You don't love it, Nick.
I can think of better stuff to be compared to.
You're supplying the show with a bit of Hollywood stardust.
Exactly.
Aye.
Well, look, guys, I think that more or less brings us to the end of Tuesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. That's it. Thank you very much for all the comments, as usual. Absolutely brilliant. And to my partners in crime, Keith Jackson and Michael Gannon. Thank you for joining us tonight. Guys, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers, Daniel.
I'm going to eat Chalice's bullying.
Good luck. Thanks for watching at home. We'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.